If you are doing this right now inside your agency, you're completely screwed. And if you were looking at getting clients like this, you're never going to be able to get them predictably. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. So last week, we only signed about 2 clients, right? Normally, we're used to doing like about 4 clients per week on average, about 3 to 4 clients a week on average, right? And most people kind of, when they're in a situation where maybe it's been like a month since they've gotten a client, or right, it's been a few weeks since they've gotten a client, or it's below baseline, right? What a lot of people will do, and this has probably happened to you, right, where you've gone on this like bad streak of not getting clients or not getting appointments, right, or even like a level lower, not getting positive replies, right? And I'm going to show you how you can fix that in a second, right? But the problem that people have is they feel these like negative emotions about this, right? And then what ends up happening is they think something is broken and they need to change what they're doing, right? But there's a couple things that they don't understand, right? And I'm going to break this down, right? So the first one is regression to the mean, right? So what ends up happening, right? If you are booking meetings, right, over a certain amount of time or getting clients over a certain amount of time, there's going to be an average, right? But that's not going to mean, right, we get about 3 to 4 clients per week on average. That does not mean we're getting 3 or 4 clients every single week, right? It means that's the average if you take like the last 12 weeks and distribute it evenly, right? And then what do you know? The next week we sign like 7 clients, and now I'm on this emotional high, and I think now we're doing amazing. We're signing 7 clients a week, but that's obviously not the case, right? And in those low points, you feel like, wow, I'm doing something wrong. I need to change something. But in the high points, when you're making sales, like in that week this week, we just signed 7 clients. I'm like, oh, my business is growing, but it's actually not, right? It's actually just doing the same, like 3 to 4 average per week, right? And I just have like a good week, right? So you have to kind of regulate yourself in that way, or else what ends up happening is you make decisions on that, right? And it's one thing to feel the emotions, right? Because that's like, you're human. You're going to be like excited after you sign 7 clients in a week, and you're going to be a little bit scared when you sign only 2, or at least for me, maybe you'd be happy with two a week, right? But you have to be in control of what you decide to do with that information, right? So I'm like constantly training myself to like not feel emotions towards like the amount of sales we make in a specific amount of time, or a short amount of time relative to how many clients we're actually signing, right? But more kind of emotion towards actually solving the bottleneck in the business, right? Which for us right now is meetings. We have like 150 meetings a month. We have capacity for like 225. So we need to increase that, and we need to hire another closer is basically where we're at with things right now. So that, like, when I solve that, that's something that I can be happy about, because that's like when we're actually progressing, right? Now, the second thing that really kills people, this is how you actually fix it, right? This is what kills people, that people don't seem to understand, right? Is if you are getting, right, a low volume of clients, right, which you're probably not, like, you're probably not looking at client acquisition at a weekly level, right? You're probably you probably look at it at like a monthly or a quarterly level, right? So if you're getting like 1 client a month, on average, this is where it gets very, very tricky and very scary. And you're like, this is where people come to my calls and they're like, I'm not getting clients predictably, right? They use the word predictable, but no one actually like knows what that means, or very few people know what that means, right? But the issue with like getting, like, typically most of the time when people are getting like 1 client a month, or they're getting like a low amount of clients on a monthly level, the issue with that is actually the amount of inputs that are going into the system. And that because of that, they're getting like maybe 2 clients month 1, they're getting no clients the next month, they're getting no clients the month after that, and now they're in full panic mode and they start to make decisions, right? Because it's a long enough time horizon where you're feeling the pain of not getting clients, and then you want to change something, right? But you might, like the next month, right? Maybe you get 4 clients, but you don't know that, right? Because you're like, there's such a long time between when you're getting clients, right? So this is the example, right? Let's say you have a dice, right? And you roll it 6 times a day, right? On average, obviously you're going to get 1 6 per day, right? You might get like 0 6s 3 days in a row, and then like the next day you get 4 6s, and that could be like, again, it's going to be up and down, right? Which is what we talked before, and you're going to get like 6 6s per week, right? We just replace the 6 with a client, right? I'm just using this 1 out of 6 number because it's an easy example, right? Now, the problem is when you're only getting 1 client a month, right? The issue is that you're only, let's say the client is the 6, right? We're just going to use 1 of the 6 as an example. The issue is you're only rolling the dice 6 times per month, right? And when you're only rolling the dice that few amount of times, right, you're not going to be able to actually measure the predictability of the system until you've been rolling the dice for a year, right? So if you were getting like these like random months where you're getting clients and then the next few months it's like it feels like this feast or famine thing. The issue that the issue is not that your system isn't predictable. It's just that it is very inefficient, which is could be the case if you're doing a lot of volume or you're just not doing enough volume, right? So it's not that it's so these are the two possibilities, right? One, it's just very inefficient, right? And what that means is maybe like one in every like 10,000 outreaches you're getting a client, which your system is still predictable. It's just like predictable and shit, right? Or number two is maybe you're only sending like 10 outreach a month, right? Which you'd be surprised. I have seen this. These are the two different extremes, right? And then they're getting like one client from that, or like one client every 20, right? And they're only doing 10 a month. Well, in that case, it's like you're not doing enough outreach to actually see the result of that, right? So when you are looking at how many clients you are getting, you have to measure that not against the time frame that it's going on, but against the amount of inputs that are coming into the system, right? So if you have a month where your close rate is 5%, but you've only taken 20 calls, right? You close one out of every 20. Like that's not, you can't change your sales process because you've only taken 20 calls. You should be taking at least 50 to 100 calls to actually change your sales process, right? The issue is with the inputs, right? But if you take 50, or maybe not 50, we'll just be, say you take 100 calls in a week, right? Probably not going to take that many in a week because that would be fucking crazy. But let's say you took 100 calls in a week and your close rate was 5%, then even though it's a shorter time frame, right? Then you might need to probably if it was better before, you probably just changed something and you need to change it back, right? But then you can actually look at it, right? You have to actually measure the results you're getting based on the amount of inputs, based on the amount of dice you roll, rather than the amount of time that elapses while you are rolling the dice, right? Because if you roll the dice 100 times in 100 seconds and you get, right, a certain amount of dice, like it's probably going to be close to whatever the number is, 17 sixes, right? But if you roll 10 dice in a month, right, and you get 0 sixes, you're gonna be like, oh, this dice is rigged, but it's not. You just only rolled it 10 times, right? But the thing is, a lot of the times, like our brain just like for some reason just thinks about it in like, oh, I haven't signed a client in 3 months, versus like I've signed a client from 10 sales calls, right? So you need to look at the inputs, and then once you actually look at the inputs, that's what you actually have to change. Not you don't change it based on the time. You increase the inputs, or you have to increase the efficiency if you've noticed that after a significant amount of inputs, the system is inefficient, right? So that's the thing that I thought about a lot this week, just because I've been going. Like I've had like this pop up again and again. Like we had our first like refund for our program. Like we guarantee 120 appointments in 120 days. Like the first guy ever who's actually like put in the effort and like not gotten the result. That happened right after like 90 clients, and for like 5 minutes I was like panicking. I'm like, oh, my product sucks, and then I realized that's like a 98.7% success rate. So it's fine, right? But like if you just look at, oh my goodness, in the last 24 hours I've had one refund, right? If you look at it based on the time and not based on, again, the inputs, how many clients we've signed, right, you might start to panic. Another one happened recently, right? It was a guy who ended up investing in the program and then like decided to refund like day one, just because you got like cold feet or whatever, before we actually fully signed the agreement and everything like that. And it's like out of, again, like 100 clients, this happened one time. And even though like all this crap is happening in like 24 hours, and it seems like, oh, something's broken, it's just an average playing itself out, right? So hopefully this helps. This has made me a lot less stressed on a day-to-day basis just thinking about these things. Because when you are just in this place where you're like, it feels like feast or famine, just because like the way things happen in like a certain amount of time. Time is just this abstract concept that people ascribe value to for some reason. So yeah, once you look at actual numbers, things become a lot less stressful, and you can actually make decisions properly in your business, and you can avoid bad decisions, because a lot of people I see, they'll make decisions based on like 10 points of data, and then they'll just screw up their whole business. So hopefully this helps, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye.